Coming up in this edition of Media McKnight, Nine makes a big claim in terms of its news ratings. I'll separate fact from fiction. Former Today presenter Alex Cullen replaces one job with two new ones. I'll break down what is happening in the US with late night TV after the cancellation of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and why is news.com.au serving us up old news. Hello, I'm Rob McKnight and welcome to Media McKnight. If you would like early access to this show, just become a member at youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. Otherwise, you can watch all episodes with everyone else when they're uploaded every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. All right, let's get into it. When it comes to TV ratings, there are claims and counterclaims, but Nine has come out swinging this past weekend. They have rightly claimed the ratings year for Nine News in the metro markets. But this is where things get complicated. Networks are now slicing and dicing figures depending on their needs. Are we meant to be focusing on total TV, which includes regional viewers and is what is being pushed out by VOZ and OzTem and everyone else? That's the official line. Or can metro figures be used? Back in 2016, Nine claimed the Today Show had won the ratings year ahead of Sunrise. And it had, in the metro markets, which had always been the metric. But Seven threatened to sue Nine, claiming Sunrise had won nationally and they had bragging rights. For some reason, and I really still can't understand it all these years later, Nine folded and let Seven have the win. So now, win should only be claimed based on a national audience. But there's a twist. Because there is a but, and this is a big one, the 6 p.m. news is of course a local product. Each capital city gets a different version of 9 News and 7 News, with different presenters and a focus on local stories. So, in my view, the use of the metro figures is valid. Ultimately, when it comes to news, a win or a loss should really only be determined locally. You know, when I was making promos for 9 News, it used to really bug me that we had gotten Sydney's 9 News to number 1, but 7 would promote its local news as Australia's number 1. Now, while they had every right to do that based on the national figure, I always found it disingenuous. Chris Barth, who was the presenter at the time, wasn't reading a national bulletin. She was reading Sydney's bulletin, and Peter Overton on 9 was beating her. So the use of Australia's number 1 was technically correct because 7 News is a national product, but that edition of Sydney's local 7 News was not. It still annoys me to this day. So, as far as I'm concerned, Nine has every right to make the claims they've made. At the conclusion of the 21st week of the 40-week official rating survey, 9 News has won every single week in the 5-city metro, Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. This gives 9 News an unassailable lead for the year in terms of weeks 1, Nine declared in a press release. And while some might argue we have to wait for averages at the end of the year, bragging rights for news have traditionally been based on the number of weeks won. As we've just passed the 21-week mark, Nine's claims stand up. In an email sent to his Melbourne staff, Director of News Hugh Nayland praised his hard-working team. Despite the avalanche of information available online 24/7, this tells us there is huge demand among Melbourne audiences for trusted news, sport and weather. A news service committed to covering Melbourne and Victorian issues thoroughly, to break big yarns in both news and sport, and to telling our stories with humour and heart. A huge part of this result has been driven by your willingness to embrace new platforms for our news content. From our incredible social media output to radio crosses, long form and podcasts, we are getting better at meeting our audience where they are. The intuitive way we've adapted to this gives us great encouragement for the years ahead. Now look, there's no doubt 7 will claim the ratings win nationally. But there's no doubt this is an important win for 9. Earlier today, the radio ratings for Survey 4 were released and I did a special edition, a bonus edition of Media McKnight. Now, if you've already seen that, skip ahead a little bit for the extra stories, but I'm going to run that as a replay so we've got it all in one place. Let's start in Melbourne. This is the story so far. 3AW owns this town overall. It's expected to continue its dominance, and on the FM dial, Gold 104.3 sits at the top. In breakfast, Ross and Russ, they continue to reign supreme, but the battle for number one on the FM dial, well, it takes a few twists and turns. Jason Lauren can sometimes be number one, and then Christian O'Connell can be number one. We'll see what happens. Okay, stop the press, because there's been a huge disruption in Melbourne as we get into the results, with 3AW losing its crown. Gold 104.3 has claimed the top spot with a 12.1% share. That is up 0.3%, while 3AW has found itself in a surprising place, second place, after it lost a 0.6% share for a survey share of 11.9. Now, the station will still be able to crow about its breakfast offering, Ross and Russ, which continued to dominate the slot on a 16.6% share, despite losing 1.5 points. It's steady as she goes in breakfast, though, with Jason Lauren on Nova taking out the top spot on FM again with a 10.8% share. That's an increase of 0.6. That was ahead of the Christian O'Connell show on Gold, which had a 10.1% share. That's a rise of 0.4%. Cullen and Jackie O remain behind the ABC on 5.6, but they did see a rise of 0.3. Let's go to Sydney now, and the story so far is that presenter lineups haven't affected 2GB's dream run. Ben Fordham has been a dominant force in breakfast, while Ray Hadley's replacement, Mark Levy, well, he's held on to the audience in mornings. Despite their problems in Melbourne, Kyle and Jackie O took out the top spot on FM last survey. All eyes will be on that show to see if the Melbourne issues are hurting their Sydney ratings. Let's get to the results. Station-wise, it's pretty much business as usual, with Smooth FM, though, back at the top spot on 12.3%. But 2GB took a big minus 2% share drop to land second on 11.6. Kiss rounded out the top three with a 10.4% share. At breakfast, Ben Fordham remains number one on 14.7% despite a 2% drop. Carl and Jackie O remain the king and queen of FM on 13.9%, increasing the share for Kiss by 1.4%. In Brisbane, Triple M took out the top spot last survey, but all eyes will be looking out to see what happens at breakfast. Nova's Ash Lutzy and Nikki Osborne had disrupted the market since the addition of the latter, overtaking B105, which has enjoyed numerous surveys as the number one show. Radio watchers will be interested to see what happens at 4BC, where I once worked, after some positive signs in the last survey. Now to the results. Yep, Triple M is still at the top with a 13.3% share, an increase of 0.5%. B105 was relegated to second place on 12.2%. 4BC dropped slightly by 0.7% down to 5.8%, with most shows mostly flat or slightly down, although Drive did see a slight improvement. In breakfast, the magic at Nova with Ash Lutzy and Nikki Osborne has waned a little, with the trio falling back to third place on 12.1%. That's down 1%. They're behind Triple M on 13.2%, a rise of 1.5%, and B105 on 13.1%. This is an ongoing battle which will be fascinating to watch. In Adelaide, Mix has been enjoying its dominating lead while a battle for second place continues between Nova and Triple M. In the last survey, we saw a new winner with Jody and Hazy on Nova, outdoing Rue, Ditz and Loz on Triple M. Now to the results. Mix continues its winning streak with a 13.5% share despite a drop of 0.9%. Triple M is sitting on 13.1%. That's an increase of 1.5%. It saw a big improvement, but it wasn't enough to get them into the top spot. Rue, Ditz and Loz on Triple M have reclaimed the number one breakfast crown with a 14.2% share. That was an increase of 0.6%. While Jody and Hazy on Nova had to settle for second place with a 12.4% share after dropping 1.4%. And finally to Perth, 96 FM had become the new number one last survey, swapping places with Nova, which dropped minus 2.1%. In breakfast, Nova's Nathan, Nat and Sean were unstoppable with a dominating 19.5% share. Now to the results. And the changes keep coming in Perth, with Nova dropping to third place on 12.3%. That was down another minus 2.6%. 96 FM stayed at the top of the pile on 14.8%, but was down a massive minus 2.3%. Mix was second on 12.4%. Nova's Nathan, Nat and Sean took a huge hit in breakfast, dropping -4%, but still held on to the number one spot with a 15.5% share. Triple M rose +3.4% for a 13.4% share, and 96 FM had a 13% share, -1.8%. So was this a survey correction? We'll have to wait until Survey 5 on September 5 to find out. Former Today Show sports presenter Alex Cullen is going to be a very busy boy. After signing on to be part of the Christian O'Connell radio show, it's also finally been announced he is also joining the team at 7 News in Melbourne. It's a lucky break for the popular presenter after a silly mistake cost him his job at 9 after he accepted a $50,000 payment from billionaire Adrian Portelli. 7 is keeping the new show under wraps for the time being, but it's widely understood Sean Power will set up the new show as part of his gig covering special projects from Melbourne. Power was previously the executive producer of Sunrise and then the Sydney news director for 7 News. So this will be one show that's worth watching to see what 7 do in the space. Well, the world of TV was in shock last week with the announcement The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was being axed in 10 months' time.
Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
Now look, many are calling it a political move by CBS, saying its owners, Paramount Global, made the decision to appease Trump, especially with incoming owners, Skydance Media, being friendly with the president. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in between. Once big money makers, late-night television has been in freefall for some time in terms of ratings and, more importantly, revenue. As per Reuters, 15 years ago, a popular late-night show like The Tonight Show could earn $100 million a year, the executive said. Recently, though, The Late Show has been losing $40 million a year, said a person briefed on the matter. Colbert himself is rumoured to be on $15 million per year as host, and it seems to me strange there were no discussions about reducing the sizable budget for the show. Do you really need 200 people working on one program? And surely, Colbert would have been willing to take a pay cut. Whatever the real reason, it marks a big change in American culture. In Australia, we generally head to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, but in the US there is more of a nighttime culture, including watching television at 11:30 p.m. Well, at least that used to be the case. It will be interesting to see whether the remaining shows pick up some of Colbert's audience, or will they too fade into oblivion? One of Australia's biggest news websites has recently run a story to stir up a bit of outrage after a comedian made a joke about Anne Frank. Here's the clip they used.
I love being a girl. I think it's like my favourite hobby. And like, for me, like, I love all the girlies. You don't know me, but if you did, you know I'm obsessed with all the girlies. And like, you know how girls talk to each other when they're drunk on a night out in the toilets? That's me and a Coles at 4 p.m. I'm like, babe, dump him. He seems so toxic. And I can tell because he's standing right next to her. And truly, like, I think I could get along with any girl in the whole world. I even think I could get along with any girl, even in history. Like, put me in a room with Cleopatra. I'd be like, oh my God, I love your eyeliner. Put me in a room with Anne Frank. I'd be like, slut, I have a diary as well. Congrats on the book deal. I would say that.
Yep. Cue outrage. This article even included a quote from the Anti-Defamation Commission chair, who took offence. This wasn't just a joke, it was a brutal desecration of the memory of Anne Frank and the 1.5 million Jewish children who were murdered in the Holocaust, gassed, shot, starved, erased, he said in a statement. When someone takes a victim of genocide and turns her into an obscene punchline, they don't just mock her, they violate her. Now look, whatever your views are on the material, and I am a big believer in not censoring comedians. The thing that should be noted is the routine in question was from 11 months ago. Yep, the clip uploaded by the Melbourne International Comedy Festival showing her routine was from the 2024 Raw Comedy National Grand Final. Those outrageous comments actually took place at the Melbourne Town Hall on Sunday, 14 April. Not that you'd know that by the article. So why is it news now? Probably because the reporter saw a clip on social media and thought, oh, there's a good angle. The thing is, this isn't news. It's olds. Thank you, Ricky Gervais, for that one. All right, that brings us to the end of this edition of Media McKnight. Each episode comes out Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, but you can get early access just by becoming a member of my YouTube page. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight and click the membership link, and you will get this video as soon as it is ready, whatever time of the day that is. So go to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. Click the membership link. I'll be back live tomorrow night at 9 p.m. with another edition of McKnight Tonight. I am Rob McKnight. I hope to see you then. Cheers.